I think this is gonna catch on. I think a lot of people like they're gonna start understanding more and more about the dangers of PMO, and it's gonna be more widely accepted. It's just I know it's on a lot. It's on us to really not just obviously like practice what we preach, but also to like teach others, and
Yes.
bring awareness to the mass population about what's going on, and letting them know that this is something that if you're struggling with, that you can get out of it. It's easy to get out of it. um it just involves a lot of thought, challenging your beliefs, challenging whatever you were exposed to, whatever you were taught in the past, and really making that decision to better yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome to Filling the Void. This is your host, the Celibate Yogi. In this week's episode, we hear from a physician, a doctor, and he shares and he chronicles his journey of quitting and escaping the porn trap. We spend a lot of time working through some core beliefs that keep people stuck on this porn trap, and we also hear from him about the greater societal implications of how porn is playing out and what that means for our society. So keep listening, and I'll see you on the other side.
All right, so I have been doing generally better in you know understanding the concepts of the easy peasy, and obviously like from your book as well, which is kind of like derived from and everything. um but I'm still finding myself slipping up.
Mhm,
The last time I slipped up was yesterday, and it
mhm.
was after a long day at work. Actually, I came out from like a night shift, like a 24-hour call.
Yeah.
So I came back, I was super tired, and it wasn't necessarily that like the day was difficult or I was really upset or anything. It was just, in fact, it was a pretty good shift. I learned a lot, and we also work with fellows. So the fellow that I was with, like he was teaching a lot, and I really benefited from that. But um, yeah, but I just came home, and then I was just like super tired, and I just decided kind of like to use again, and then that's when I kind of like was sitting down and trying to figure out, okay, I need to have like some deeper thought in terms of what am I missing? Is there something that still kind of like as far as the brainwashing is concerned in my mind? And then that's when I don't know if you saw, but like in the Discord group, I kind of just wrote down a bunch of stuff, trying to like start from all the way at the beginning and figure out, okay, could there be another underlying thing that I haven't really addressed yet, with regards to
Mhm.
why I think I'm using it. And in a nutshell, I think it's not so much that I don't understand what the book is addressing.
Mhm.
It's like, yes, I'm totally on board with like the harms, the brainwashing with regards to like how it relieves stress, anxiety, how it
Mhm.
doesn't do that actually. Um, I think it's more of a deeper thing. And what I was mentioning was that I think it has to do with status.
What
Um,
status?
Status, yes.
Tell me
So
what.
so basically, when I was doing NoFap for the first time, that's when I had like my longest streak.
Mhm.
And then when I slipped up for the first time, it really like shattered my confidence. So I guess from that point on, I really like linked my status and my worth to like um how well I'm able to stay away from PMO. So then when I would try to like, get back into it again, I just kept relapsing and relapsing and relapsing and relapsing. So that really affected my confidence in that in myself. I thought I wasn't good enough basically because I'm still like kind of like in this really bad cycle.
Mhm.
And then that also I saw that kind of like permeate through. other areas of my life, like especially in my school and in my work. And generally, I was doing well. I'm still doing, well, but I just always thought that I could do better, if it wasn't for PMO. Um, and then now it's like I feel like my worth will be validated if I'm able to just if I'm able to stay away from PMO for good. But then it's kind of like a catch-22 because based on my like history of relapses over and over and over again, I'm scared to like have the confidence to like take that leap and you know um and then that's why I find myself like going back because I'd rather, and this is like it doesn't make sense, but like I'd rather stick with PMO than worry about the uncertainty of um trying to stay off and then slipping again and everything. um and then I also mentioned like when I was introduced to PMO before, uh like the two friends who introduced me to it, like they were very like I kind of like looked up to them a lot. And so in a way, like I was, trying to seek validation from them as so as the cool guy and the guy who who does what they do. And initially that's why I first, fell into the trap, right? Because it made me feel like accepted, and everything. And then over time, um, when especially like when I started high school, I was like in more rigorous like classes. So then I would turn to PMO for basically like stress relief and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, so that's pretty much like the gist of it. I think it's more of a status, and then I guess like if I could like boil it down to one thing, it's like, right, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, and everything like that. So like in the process of like writing this down, I remember something that I read, uh, like I think like a year ago about this kind of issue, and saying that what's important is to really kind of like look at where you derive your status from in terms of it being like, is it an external source versus something that's like inherent within you? And a lot of like the reason why like we think poorly of ourselves is because we have some external source of status that we cling on to. And because that can change, and at a given moment, we say like, okay, I feel good if I have, for example, like if I have a lot of money, or I feel bad if I don't have a lot of money, or if I have this number of friends or I don't have this number of friends, things like that. um so I think for me it's really like I'm like so hyper focused on my like leaving the identity of being someone who's in PMO. But with respect to my the past and my previous failures, um, it's hard to shake that off. And so that's kind of like what I was just like pondering about yesterday.
Yeah. Was there anything else that came up?
Uh, let me see. Let me see. I'm just looking at my notes right now to see what I wrote. So I think just like over like in a more general sense, it's because like I mentioned before that it kind of affected my sense of my self-confidence, especially like my performance at work and everything. So I think it's just like a whole general aspect of like I need to make sure that I'm like affirming to myself that like I have like this inherent worth, this inherent dignity that's not really affected by anything else, outside of that. And in fact, it's a matter of being more in line with my inherent dignity that, you know, I'm making the necessary steps to leave PMO, because I know that I'll be returning back to, you know, who I truly am, as opposed to saying that like, oh, like I in like before I had low self-confidence and I'm just building myself up. No, it's like, no, I had my worth has always been there. It's just like I kind of like steered away from the road a little bit, and I'm just looking to bring myself back. I guess my worry is that I don't know if it's something that like I can fix like
Mhm.
instantly. I'm thinking that it's something that I have to kind of like work on over time. Hopefully not over a long period of time. That just maybe like constant affirmations, constant, you know,
Mhm.
reminders and everything like that. But um and then worrying about like, am I going to slip up again in that process?
Yeah. If you had to kind of, there are a lot of things happening here around self-esteem, around validation, around your identity, and kind of how it's all intertwined into this belief. So if you were to kind of sum it up in a phrase, um, what do you think the belief here is? Is the belief I am not enough? Is the belief I'm not worthy, or um, I need someone to validate me? Like, what is this belief that's causing this void in your life? If you had to articulate it into a sentence.
Yeah, I'd say worthy enough for I'm not worthy enough, basically. That'd be
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So let's actually work on that core belief. And by the way, this is incredibly common. I wouldn't beat yourself up because you have this belief. I think you and 7 billion other people around the world have this exact same belief.
Mm.
Um, so I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. They're going to seem a bit facetious. They're going to seem a bit silly to even ask because we all know the answer to them. But um, just humor me and play along, and let's give it a shot.
Okay.
And just speak from the heart. You know, give the first answer that comes to your mind. That sort of thing. Um, I am not worthy. That's the belief we're working on. Is that true?
Is that
And
true?
what
Yes.
your gut instant reaction is? Yes or no?
My gut instant reaction is yes.
Okay. Can you absolutely know that it's true? Now engage the head.
No.
How?
Can absolutely well, because I mean I'm me, right? So I'm always gonna be biased in terms of like what metrics that I use to say like whether or not I'm worthy enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's you have to think about like a whole comprehensive approach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if I'm not performing well in this particular aspect of my life, does that account for everything else? Or is it I have to have, you know, deficiencies in most of, or not all of my aspects of life to say whether or not I'm 100% not good enough entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't figure that out for myself because I'm just super biased, and I'm really focusing on just like one thing in this specific instance with regards to, you know, my PMO use.
It's a bit silly to base your entire self worth on one very particular and easily easily recoverable thing you've got that's going bad for you. I mean, you are a medical doctor. You are you help kids. You have gone through a lot of incredible, vigorous training. You just finished your step three, and you did well on that. By all means, you are doing great. You are you're crushing it. You should be, um, you know, whatever belief whatever feeds this belief that you're not enough is, as you have established yourself, there's no way of absolutely knowing that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now we know that intellectually, at least, that this belief that I am not worthy is not true. But when you hold on to a belief like I am not enough, tell me, how does that affect your life? How has that affected your life so far?
Yeah, definitely. It just makes me like really self-conscious about, you know, how I put myself out there, especially um, in front of my peers. Um, like I keep going back to my work because it's such a really good example. Like I'm in this phase of where I'm still, even though I still have the doctor degree, like I'm still training. So the
Mhm.
learning curve is considerably steep. So it's not a matter of, not just taking care of the patients, but also learning about how to take care of the patients in the process. So it's a much more stressful environment that I'm in, even though I have a lot of support, but still it's like I'm constantly like, worrying about if I'm doing the right thing and if my senior, you know, residents and attending physicians, they have like a good perception of me. I don't want to mess up. And that makes me really at times anxious and worried if I'm actually doing good and see that's another thing that I'm thinking about is like I do also attach my sense of worth and dignity into
Mhm.
how well I do at work, like into my performance. So see, that's another external source of validation that shouldn't be there. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Do you think you can be mindful at work, continue to learn, continue to stand up for yourself, continue to grow as a physician without um, this belief? Do you think it's possible?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if this belief that you're not worthy, that your worth and dignity is not tied to all of this blob of work and life and all that kind of stuff, and it's making you miserable, then it doesn't make too much sense to hold on to this belief, and you've already recognized that.
Hmm.
Um, so tell me just for a moment, what would life be like if you no longer had this belief that I'm not worthy, that my worth and dignity is not tied to my work? How would things change for you?
I'd be a lot more calm, a lot more, you know, proactive in learning and seeking out opportunities to learn and to get out of my comfort zone. Um, and I really wouldn't let anything limit me in terms of my goals.
Mhm.
Um, like especially with what I want to do in the future. Like if I want to like do further training to like subspecialize, because um, one of the other things that so far that I'm thinking about is going into like an ICU specialty, which I guess in my mind I'm thinking like, oh, you have to be like really smart to do ICU because it's a lot more active and you really have to know your physiology well, how well the body works and things like that. So I don't know like if I was worthy enough, yeah, to to thrive in that kind of specialty. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I would be a lot more calm, a lot more confident in myself. I wouldn't be worried about what other people thought about me, and I would just do what I need to do and thrive.
Yeah. And so we have established so far that you have no absolute means of knowing that this belief is true, that I'm not worthy. We have established so far that holding on to this belief makes you self conscious, makes you ineffective at work. It feeds the PMO addiction. it puts your worth and dignity into question. And if you were to let it go, you'd be a lot more calm, a lot more proactive. You'd learn a lot more. You would advance from your career um, in a significant way. You might take more chances, and seek out perhaps more difficult, um, seemingly difficult challenges, because you are not questioning your self worth. And of course, the your reliance on PMO would not exist. Would that be correct?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say that, just to clarify, like I think it's because of the PMO
Mm.
that it kind of like went into my work, not really the other way around. Um,
Yes.
yes. So that's another revelation, because work is a big factor, but I've also seen it like in situations where, like in social situations, for example, like if I were to talk with, like attractive women, things like that, and if things can go out really well, but then I feel like, you know, there's that fear of success also,
Right.
where it's like if things are really going my way, because of the belief, just like wholly, that like I'm not worthy. Like, do I deserve like all of the successes and everything that's going on a social aspect, work aspect, staying clean, things like that. So there have been times when like I would actually, things would go well, but then I would still go back and use, because I just felt that like I didn't really deserve whatever was going on. So like, yeah.
Yeah. A few things that I want to point out here. You have made a causal statement that the PMO is what's feeding this belief that I'm not enough. Um, and I would be careful of making that link. I think correlation doesn't equate causation. You know that
Mm,
better than me. I think in a lot of cases they feed each other, and there are so many other excuse me, there are so many other factors that feed a belief like I am not enough.
mm,
I read about this in my book, but you turn on the TV, you go to the movies, and um, think of a James Bond movie. At the end of the movie, he's killed a bad guy, and he has that Super 10 model, and he's going off into the sunset and going to bed with her. And that is seen and shown as the height of success. That's shown as the height of human achievement. And if you aren't, if you want to be cool like James Bond, you need someone or something like that going on in your life. And so
mm,
that's a level of brainwashing. You've had years and years and years of PMO brainwashing where you're seeing all these supernatural stimulus that's made you think that, well, I need to perform and act and be like this, or I need to um, like, this is what success looks like, this is how I have to be with a woman in order for me to feel self-worth. You have you've grown up in the age of social media where you've seen your colleagues and coworkers and classmates in some ways excel, uh, perhaps more than you. Obviously there are people who haven't done as well, but the mind constantly has a tendency to look at the people who have done better and kind of beat yourself up in the process. And so that's an additional level of beating yourself up, an additional level of telling yourself subconsciously that I am not enough. Um, and all of these different things feed into the belief that I'm not enough. It's not just the PMO. And in many cases, as this belief gets stronger, you act out in in different ways, whether it be with this heightened self-consciousness at work, whether it be falling into the PMO trap. I think a lot of people believe that, oh, because I'm PMOing, I have low self-worth. But in some ways, it's because you have the belief, and that's why you end up PMOing. It's because you have this belief through all these years of brainwashing that you are self-conscious. In many ways, the belief comes before acting out. And of course, the world kind of reinforces that feedback cycle, and you just go down this vicious cycle of making this belief stronger and stronger and stronger. But I would be kind of careful in making it into just a one directional causal relationship. I would really think of it as one thing that feeds the other, in a continuous cycle, and it keeps kind of like pulling you down. Does that make
Okay.
sense, or was that?
No, no, yeah,
If it
yeah,
doesn't ring true,
definitely.
let me know.
Yeah, I was just trying to see like I was just trying to to see if I could pinpoint if there was like one like event that kind of caused all this so that I could kind of see go back and kind of process it,
Yeah.
so to speak. And the only thing that I can think of is like I mentioned earlier, like I've been a lot better at this now, but I would always like just like seek validation from others, especially from my friends.
Mhm.
Because like I don't have any siblings and everything, and so I was always kind of like I guess clingy to other people.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if that also played a role.
Yeah. All of these different things play a role. There's value, of course, in trying to like pinpoint the exact moment or an event that causes it, but um, I think it would be more constructive, at least in the time we have, to focus on, well, what are we going to do moving forward with this like overriding belief, and
Mhm.
beliefs like this create a void in our life, and we try and fill it with like sugar or binging on Netflix or watching PMO or mindless scrolling of social media. People who do feel I am enough don't need this sort of constant stimulation, and they can, um, because they're not trying to fill the void in their life. And um, so far, we have established that there's no way for you to know that this is absolutely beyond a shred of doubt true. We have established that holding on to this belief has made you miserable, made you ineffective, made you question your worth and dignity. It's made you continue relying on the PMO crutch. And we also established that if you didn't have this belief, you'd be a heck of a lot happier. You'd be more self confident. You'd need to rely less and less on external crutches, external validation, even PMO. So it seems to me that the decision is quite clear, that it makes a lot more sense to drop this belief. And in the beginning of the call, you did say that I don't know if I can just drop it, if it's a gradual thing, or if I can just choose to drop it. And I'd like to challenge you
Mhm.
and say that actually it is just a choice. And just for the sake of illustration, what I'd like you to do is, do you have like a pen or pencil or, like a key that you can grab and put in your hand?
A key, yeah, I have something that I can, yeah, right here.
Okay, whatever, like a USB key. I don't know, just something to keep in your hand.
Okay.
And I want you to kind of like put it in your palm, keep your palm open, and look at the thing that you've got in your hand. By the way, what is it? Is it like a pen or something?
It's it's like a clip that you use to like
Okay,
clip your tie to your shirt. Yeah.
okay, cool. So you've got a clip in your hand. And really, this clip you've got in your hand is like this belief you have that I am not enough. And what we tend to do over time in life is that as external situations happen, as life goes on, as brainwashing kicks in, we kind of start internalizing this belief. So I want you to start like clamping your hand down on this pin that you've got, and like really clench this pin or clip you've got in your hand.
Okay.
And I want you to grab it even tighter and tighter and tighter. And is your hand getting more tense or less tense?
More tense.
That's exactly it. And this is what happens when we really internalize a belief, and we start to think that this is who I am, and we cause tension in our life because of holding on to these beliefs so tightly. But
Mhm.
this belief was never a part of us. It was something we held on to, and we did it, and we internalized it. We told ourselves that this is who I am. And the more tightly we clung to it, the more tension, the more stress we created. And then we tried to fill the void. We tried to relieve the tension we had from holding on to this belief by doing all the things that make us miserable. And all you really had to do was open your hand, and the tension goes away. And the only thing you have to do to drop this belief is turn your hand upside down. So go ahead and do that. Do you see how easy it is for that clip to fall down?
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So just like you drop that clip, can you just choose to unclench your hand and turn your hand down and drop this belief that I am not enough?
Yes.
It really is just a choice.
Mm.
But as soon as you do it, there's going to be a tendency to be like, well, no, I really want to pick it up, because it's a part of my hand. Like, it's part of my life. I want to hold on to it and I want to clip it again. I want to grab it again. And
Yeah, like you see the imprint on your hand when you let
yeah,
go. So it's like, yeah.
yeah. You think it's a part of you. And this is when we have to find a reversal and affirm the truth to ourselves. Because we've had so many years of brainwashing, we need to
Mm-hmm.
consciously affirm the truth to ourselves over and over and over again. And you mentioned that these positive affirmations that you have to remind yourself of. So, help me come up with a reversal of this belief that I am not enough. What would be a good reversal of that?
So let me see. Um, could it be something like I have like inherent unconditional self-worth and dignity?
That's great. That's beautiful. I have inherent unconditional self worth and dignity. I am enough.
Yes, yes.
How does that feel as you say it, as you said it out loud?
Yeah, it feels great. If it feels, I feel like lighter as a result of it, and it helps like relieve like a lot of the pressures about trying to perform, and it's just like and then I guess the other aspect like I would add is and because I have this inherent self-worth and dignity, I'm gonna honor it.
Yes.
Anything that I do, I'm gonna honor that by doing the things that will help preserve that and not you know taint it or chip it away.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to make this point quite clear. Um, these affirmations by themselves would be helpful, but you first had to see through the lie of the false belief.
mm,
And that's when, and really understand that it's not a part of you. And it was like that clip you clutched in your hand and it created the tension in your hand. Um, Once that idea is clear, these affirmations, these positive beliefs, these truths, when you affirm them to yourself, they create a deeper impression in your mind and they stick to you. Um, I wouldn't recommend, you get it intellectually that PMO is bad for you, it doesn't relieve the stress, it doesn't relieve boredom or any of that other stuff. But um, there was what was kind of like what was in the back of your mind was that, well, I'm not worthy, and so I might as well just punish myself, or um, I might as well just have this. I might as well just PMO because it feeds the void of me not being enough.
right. And yeah, like even like I had those similar affirmations that I wrote down, and I'd read them every day, but I just like really deep, I didn't feel like it had much of an effect because of when you were saying that other underlying deeper belief. So I needed to shift my focus to that instead.
Yeah.
So now the question that I have is, I guess apart from like writing it down and kind of like reading it, affirming every day,
Mhm.
is there anything else that I can do to like reinforce that new belief?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things you can do is actually be mindful of the opposite of all the different times when you pick that pen, when you pick that clip up and you grasp it tightly in your hand with the false things. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Being quite mindful of all the different ways that the brainwashing kicks in, and you accept it unquestioningly, um, whether it be from a like a passing comment that a colleague might make, commenting on your effectiveness as a physician, or maybe a comment from your parents, or when you see a happy couple and you're like, man, I don't have this thing figured out in my life. Just think of as you're going through life, start being mindful of the 101 different ways that you beat yourself up, in the 101 ways that you tell yourself, I'm not enough, or you internalize the idea that I am not enough. It's such a unconscious thing, but we do it constantly, and it's so detrimental to our health, our happiness, our well-being.
Yeah, a lot of it can be very unconscious. So, right, if you're not really mindful of it all the time, then it can just creep up on you.
Yeah. The other thing that might help, and this is based on what you said about being a kid, really wanting validation from those other guys that introduced you to PMO, or a bunch of other things, but you can picture yourself as a kid, or you can picture this kid in your mind's eye and tell him that, hey man, like, you are enough and you always have been enough. And that is incredibly healing.
Yeah.
I remember when I did that, I broke down into tears because I wished someone would have told me that when I was growing up as a kid.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll definitely do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. How are you feeling in general?
Yeah. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more relieved in terms of figuring out kind of like what's the deep root, and surprisingly, this isn't something that I like. It's not like a new revelation to me. It's always something that I would like at times, think about, ponder about, but either because I was so wrapped up in, I guess, the more surface level, issues with PMO, that I wasn't really consistent in, processing and thinking and, working through this particular issue. Because I remember like writing it about this like a few years ago also. Then I was like, because I was also at a point where like I just kept failing and everything, and in terms of my recovery, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So now I for sure know that this is it. Like, if I process this one and leave it behind me, then it's going to be dramatically effective. Yes. So it's always great to talk to you. I really appreciate your help for everything that you're doing. For all of us, it's really great. Like, I think just like in general, just like from a societal perspective, it's I think this is gonna catch on. I think a lot of people, like, they're gonna start understanding more and more about the dangers of PMO, and it's gonna be more widely accepted. It's just, I know it's on us to really not just obviously like practice what we preach, but also to like teach others,
Yes.
and bring awareness to the mass population about what's going on, and letting them know that this is something that if you're struggling with, that you can get out of it. It's easy to get out of it. It just involves a lot of thought, challenging your beliefs, challenging, whatever you were exposed to, whatever you were taught in the past, and really making that decision to better yourself.
Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Filling the Void. It would mean a lot to me if you went ahead and left a great review, a great rating on iTunes Podcast, on Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to this podcast. And of course, if you want to learn more about these ideas, go on Amazon.com and look up Quit Porn Easily. It's an ebook that I wrote, which has the best of my coaching summarized. It's only 99 cents. And of course, if you are looking for coaching, go on to quitporneasily.com/coaching. That's quitporneasily.com/coaching. Get personalized coaching about your porn addiction, your internet addiction. I'm here for you. Thanks everyone for listening, and I will see you next time.